Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we're going to do a beginner's guide to off-road, and we're going to do it real time. These are going to be tips that I wish I had known when I was a beginner, and we're not just going to talk about it, we're going to show it. So we're at the beginning of a fun trail that's rated intermediate, and we're going to be going from the Mojave Desert up into the mountains to Big Bear, California. It's 90 degrees now. It's going to be probably 25 degrees cooler up there. But let's do a beginner's guide. Let's show you what the driver actually does off-roading, because when I was beginning, I always wanted to know, what's the driver doing? What's going on? You know, what mode is he in or she in when they're driving off-road? So here we go. We just got off the pavement here. We're going to see a lot of cars today. It's a popular trail. Here comes a couple Jeeps. And what I'm going to do is, first things first, pull in the mirrors. That's pretty cool. And then always be prepared before you go on the trail. Don't wait till you get stuck to get in the drive mode. Go in ahead of time. So what we're going to do is, I just pulled in the mirrors. Now I'm going to go ahead on this GX460 is lock the center differential. In neutral, put it in drive. Now I'm prepared to go. I'm in 4 high, and take the parking brake off, and we're going to go. So now we're prepared to hit this trail. All we got to do is drive now. So, like I said, this is going to be a real-time example of what you're going to do on the trail. So I've been down this trail before, and it's rated as moderate, and so you're always going to want to be prepared as best you can. So aside from doing what I just did, which is pull in the mirrors and lock the center differential, one of the main things you also want to do is you want to go ahead and tell somebody where you're going. So safety first is what I'm getting at. So go ahead and tell everybody exactly what trail you're going to be on, and where you plan to start, and where you plan to end up. Tell a loved one where you're going. You know, even if you're not going alone, tell somebody. And then, while you're on the trail, leave what I call digital breadcrumbs, so to speak. Leave some digital breadcrumbs around so people know where you're going. In other words, what I mean by digital breadcrumbs, not where you're going, but they're going to know basically checkpoints, digital breadcrumb and checkpoints. I'm sorry, I don't have a fancy way to say all this. But you're going to go ahead and at certain points, send them a text message or send them something on Telegram or whatever messaging service that you usually use. And let them know I'm halfway through the trail and what time it is. So even if cell phone or internet service cuts out, you're going to have this kind of digital
in 1,000 feet, you will arrive at your destination.
You're going to have this digital record of where you are at a certain time. So in case you do get in trouble, sometimes here comes a dirt bike. Sometimes the internet signal will pick up here and there, and you will be able to tell somebody, you will be able to communicate where you're at if somebody's looking for you. So I hope that makes sense. Just message people as you go, even if you don't have phone or internet, because the signal may fly through sporadically, and you may even have someone in a truck with a repeater, and the signal may go out, and they'll know your last known location if you get stuck. So let's talk a minute about airing down here. I did not air down, as you saw. That's just what I personally do. I found that you don't need to air down unless you're going to be on a very sandy, very loose surface in this particular vehicle, which of course is the Lexus GX460. And this, this trip this beginner's guide is geared specifically towards the Lexus GX460. But don't worry, it applies to other vehicles as well, 4Runner, Jeep, etc. So if you're a beginner, this will apply to you. So the surface we're on now is kind of washboarded sand with some rocks, and there's no air down. It's at street tire pressure. What tires am I using? BFG KO2s. The Baja Champions, very popular tire. There's been tons of good things said about them. Everybody knows about them, etc., etc. So in my experience thus far, which hasn't been that much with these tires, but we have put a lot of miles on them, and of course people give rave reviews about these tires. They've been good. We'll get back to that in a second. Let's talk about, before we get into that, you know, the two things beginners need to know off-road is there's two new variables off-road that you don't have to deal with on-road, and that is surface condition, road surface condition, and pitch or elevation. Let's just call it angle. So as you can see, I'm going up on a slight angle, and we already talked about the surface. It's kind of hard packed, rocky, with a little bit of washboard. To my left here is a drop, so be careful. Call this a shelf road. So be cautious that you don't tip over. But anyway, the two issues you're going to have to deal with off-road is the surface condition and the angle. On-road, the federal government mandates that the roads can only have so much pitch, up or down, and of course, the surface condition is always going to be black asphalt or sometimes concrete, right? So you always know you're guaranteed two things on road: a nice road surface, and your grade is never going to go beyond a certain pitch in most situations. Off-road, you get none of that. You get varying surface conditions, and you also get varying pitch conditions. So that's the first thing you would want to pay attention as a beginner off-roader. Why would you want to pay attention to those two conditions? Well, let's start first with the easiest to understand, I guess. Well, they're both easy, but angle, up and down. When you're going up and down, again, I've got a slight pitch up. You know, you're obviously going to want to give it more gas, and you're going to want it more torque to get up. And depending on the angle and speed you're going at, you may want to drop down into low range. That will give you more torque to get up the hill. So that's what low range is for, to give you more torque to get up steep and to slow you down when you're going down steep. That's very important. So later on, we're going to get to some steep sections where we're going to have to go into 4 low. And as a result, going into 4 low will actually slow the car down, so you don't have to ride the brakes going down steep hills. So your low range is for this stuff, your extreme ups and downs or extreme angles when you're off-road. You don't have to deal with that again on road. So right now, again, I'm in 4 high, but I could be in 4 low if you really wanted to go slow. But I know right now that even though we're going up and down, it's not that extreme. So I'm just in 4 high drive with the center differential lock. But anyway, 4 low is for those extremes. So first thing, learn that when you get to these extremes of angle, that's where your low range comes in, both up and down. When I was a beginner, one of the first times I took this vehicle off-road, I didn't know that, and so I went up this extremely pitched hill, right, which was cool. And then I came down it, and I came down the hill, and I was riding the brakes because I was in high range, 4 high, and it was stressful, and these brakes were starting to smell, and all sorts of nonsense. As I'm trying to slow my vehicle going down the hill, not thinking, oh, that's what low range is for, to help you basically engine brake down those hills, and you can just cruise. So remember that. Low range is not just to help you up steep, but it's to help you go slow and controlled down a steep climb. So that's the first thing to remember. All right, so the second thing that we talked about was the drive surfaces. So this is hard packed dirt, but with washboards and some rocks sticking up. So you'll have to pay attention to those next, and that's going to dictate how you're going to drive and what gear range you're going to be in. Generally speaking, if it's loose stuff, you want speed and you want low tire pressure. If it's hard packed like this or medium, you want less speed and you can have torque instead. And you can basically use street tire pressures, and you can be in low range if you want, or you can be in high range. If none of that made any sense, just remember this. Loose surfaces need more speed, more get up and go, more tire spin. Where these tight or hard packed surfaces that we're on here, rocky, but not loose rocks, they're okay with either or. So I'm just cruising up this. But let's also talk about some techniques. In other words, when I first started off-roading, and I'll make this easy, I didn't know, should I straddle the rocks or should I climb over, and when, what, and how? Because when you're off-road, you're gonna see some rocks coming up on you. We know that, right? So how do you manage them? I had no idea. Do you just, like a monster truck, just straddle them, meaning have the rock go in between your tires? Or do you rock climb over them, or some combination? What's the technique? And that's the first thing we're going to jump into here. And we're going to go ahead and take a peek outside, and I'll better be able to explain it as we see some of these larger rocks coming ahead, and it'll sort of make sense. So let's continue on here, and we'll talk about it. Before we do, always remember, if you find this channel interesting, to go ahead and hit like and subscribe so we can bring you more cool stuff. Okay, so let's talk about those rocks and whether you should straddle them or whether you should climb them. And that's basically what this is all going to come down to, is there's going to be those two techniques on a stock vehicle such as this one. This vehicle is not lifted, so we're on stock suspension here. So here's the basics, and that is, obviously, if you can straddle a rock, go for it. So when you see medium-sized rocks that you're going to clear, go for it. But how do you know what you can clear and what you can't clear? Well, that comes down to knowing your specific vehicle's lowest hanging point. And on this Lexus GX460 and the Toyota 4Runner, the lowest hanging point would be the front differential. So your front differential is always going to be at the forefront of your mind as you're off-roading, because that's going to be your low point. And you're always going to be thinking, in other words, I'm always driving with the mentality of, is my front differential going to clear it? Now, I do have a skid plate on here, but that actually, that doesn't raise the center differential or anything. It just protects it, or the front differential just protects it from skids. But it's still, even with the skid plate, going to be your lowest hanging point. And you can get caught up on there in high center. So always be thinking about your front differential on this Lexus GX460 as your low hanging point. Now, with that in mind, you're obviously going to just straddle rocks that will clear your front differential. So that would be like this rock here. I just go over. Okay, easy. So easy does it. But what do you do when you can't straddle a rock, or the rock looks kind of like you can, but you're going to scrape? Well, I guess you could scrape, and we've certainly done that. But the problem there is you're going to scrape, number one, which is fine. That's what it's for. But you could also damage the front differential if it's not, protected with anything like a skid plate. But either way, there's a better way. So when you get to a medium-sized rock and you're not sure, should I straddle this or not, the technique is the second best technique is to straddle the rock. And when I say second best, I don't mean one's better than the other. What I mean to say is this is the second rock obstacle technique I want to press upon you. And that is climb over a rock that you cannot straddle. And the way I think about this is to think of your GX as a dirt bike. So forget about it having 4 wheels, think of it having 2 wheels. Think of it like it's a dirt bike. And now you've got a lot of clearance if you just think one side of the vehicle, whether it's the passenger side. Look at this rock here. It's not too big, but you just climb over one side of it. That may not have been the best example because that wasn't really a big rock. But the point I'm trying to make is, think of your one side of your vehicle as a dirt bike, and then take your tires on the big rock. In other words, the rock that you cannot straddle. Take your front tire and drive over it like your dirt bike, and the rock will you'll climb over the rock with your front tire. Then you'll have higher clearance where your rock sliders or where your side steps are, the side of your vehicle. You're going to have more clearance. Like, here's a rock here. I'm just going to pretend it's big, climb over it, and I got more clearance, and now the back tire is going to hop over it. And that's how you clear. Now, that wasn't an actual big rock, but if it was, that's the technique you would use to avoid having to straddle it and risk high centering, because high centering is the end of your day off-roading. No way around it, I guess. But so in order to avoid that in a vehicle that doesn't have lifted clearance, that is the technique. So I hope my rambling made sense. But if it doesn't, we'll try to find some examples here. But what I want to really get across is, have it in your mind when you approach the rocks like this: straddle or climb, straddle or climb. That's always going through my mind. Am I going to straddle, climb, or it doesn't matter when the surface is so, kind of flat like this? It doesn't even matter. But once it does start getting rocky, which it will down this trail here, we're constantly going to have those two questions in my mind: straddle or climb, straddle or climb, straddle or climb. And you want to have this mentality ahead of time, because you don't want to be caught off guard with, what do I do? And that's fine. That's what beginners go through. That's certainly what I went through. And the question was constantly, what do I do? I have no idea. How do I do? Do I just, when you're used to not off-roading and just on-road driving, what do I do? So by having this mentality, straddle or climb, in your mind, you'll be better prepared for when we do reach rocky sections up here to apply your knowledge efficiently. And as always, when in doubt, remember, you're not in an airplane when you're off-roading. You're in a vehicle that can come to a complete stop and back up and turn around and go the way you came. You don't have to push it further than you feel comfortable with. So if you reach a point where you're uncomfortable, by all means, stop the vehicle, turn around safely if you can, or back up if you can't safely, and away you go. Try another day. But those principles, those two principles, straddle or climb, are going to be my primary, they're going to encompass my primary mental process as we're going down this trail. Those two things, straddle or climb, over and over. I know I'm repeating it, but it's that fundamental to getting confident in your off-roading, and that's what this video is all about. You want to be confident. People who are experienced with off-roading, they know how to handle any situation. They will know right off the bat hey, this is what I'm going to do before they even get to the obstacle, or even as they're getting to the obstacle, and that's what makes it fun for them. That's what makes those people experience. But the noob doesn't have that experience under his belt, so it gets a little nervous. So how do we get there? And that is, we got to come up with some fundamentals to abide by. And once we come up with these fundamentals to abide by, you're going to start having fun instead of being stressed out. When you first start off-roading, you're stressed out. Where's the stress come from? Well, lack of knowledge, and that's perfectly fair and perfectly fine. And that's what this video is about, is to get some more knowledge so you can have some more fun. So we see here, we're just on dirt road, and there's not much to consider other than having that center differential locked and being prepared. Let's talk a second about preparation, because that's important. Before we get to this rocky section and we start showing you some, there's two principles we talked about, straddle or climb. Preparation is important. We're in the Mojave Desert, so you're going to want to obviously bring water. Now I'm thinking straddle or climb, even though it's not bad. And I'm going to climb. So again, this is not the best example, but I'm just going to keep one side of the car on the high side of the rock. It's climbing the rocks. Okay. There's a high hump here. Let's climb it. Another little hump sticking out. Climb on one side, my driver's side. All right, anyway, back to what we're talking about, preparation. So outside of letting a loved one know where you are going, you gotta come prepared with some basics, and that's basically water. Out here in the desert, I recommend carrying electrolytes or some sort of electrolyte powder. I like the product called Liquid IV, but you can carry Gatorade, candy bar, trail mix, whatever's got salt, sugar, potassium, magnesium. Junk food's good for that, but you're going to want that in the desert. And even if you're not in the desert, it's always a good idea, because contrary to what the bottled water companies will have you believe, the human body needs more than water to survive. So bring some water, bring a lot of water, more than you need. Okay, and then electrolytes, food, and snacks, salty snacks, things like that, in case you need to take a break. You can never have enough of that stuff. So what do I have specifically? I got a bunch of bottled water that you hear rolling around the back. I got a bunch of packets of Liquid IV. That's a powder that, again, you mix with your water, and you can get some electrolytes and just sip it so you don't start feeling squirrely. I have some fruit, good for electrolytes. I have some trail mix, all those minerals and stuff for snacking. So that's what I got, and that's it as far as food. And you can carry canned stuff or whatever you want, but obviously water is going to be your most important. So that's the stuff that I've got as far as edibles and drinkables in the back. So the next thing is you want some sort of gear, if you will, to help you out in case you do get into trouble, which happens. And you're going to want to have some sort of tire inflator. You're going to want to have a jack to jack the vehicle up. You're going to want to have a spare tire. You're going to want to have a plug kit as your base tire plug kit. Tire plugs in it. You can see we're getting rockier here, but nothing too high is sticking up. So my mentality now is just cruising along. But when I do see high spots, I'm sure to get one side of the vehicle over it. Anyway, the recovery gear in this car includes everything I just mentioned. So tire, air pump, and when I mean air pump, I mean just anything that will inflate your tires. Doesn't need to be onboard air. Plug into the cigarette light or whatever. You know, as long as it inflates a car tire, that's all you need. Spare tire, of course, and then a jack to jack up the tire, some sort of socket set to get the wheel lug nuts off. This particular vehicle has a not locking, but a, what do you call those things? You know, that special lug nut with the fancy anti-theft lug nut. That's what it's called. And so now we're going down, and I'm still in 4 high because I kind of know this section's not too crazy. But if you want to slow yourself down, going 4 low. Take my tire over this taller rock right there instead of straddling it on my driver's side. What else do I have back there? So in addition to that, recovery gear, so a snatch strap, ropes, things like that. And it's not necessarily for you to help somebody, it's in case you get trapped too. You may just need a tug. And here's an example. I got some high rocks here on my driver's side. Instead of trying to straddle them, make sure to take my driver's side tire up the high rocks. Okay, I'm still in 4 high. We're gonna go uphill here and we're gonna see some taller rocks. So bring some recovery gear, such as ropes and shackles, and you know, put a hitch on your car and a hitch receiver to receive a shackle. And shackles just help you hook up ropes to stuff. And not only will you help yourself, but you'll help others as well. So you can see we have high rocks to my driver's side, and that's what I'm keeping the tires on. That way we don't have to worry about straddling anything and scraping underneath or getting, dare I say it, high centered. So that's what I'm looking at here, and I'm keeping my speed up in 4 high here, but you certainly don't have to take this as fast as I'm taking it, you know, relatively fast. And it will get rockier ahead. So recovery gear, some ropes, some basic stuff. That's what you want to bring in addition to your food stuff. As we saw, there were Jeeps back there on the trail. We're probably going to see other vehicles again today. And if somebody gets stuck, whether it's you or them, you know, having a rope can be the difference between them having to go back to their house or leave the trail and come back and find you and get a rope. Here's some rock. I'm on the passenger side, just climb it. All right, we're getting rockier. Now, again, just keep one side of the car on the high stuff. Don't try to straddle those. So when you see high stuff, put one side of your car, passenger or driver, and climb over. So like I said, I'm always got the climb or straddle mentality in my mind, or question, or whatever. You get what I'm saying. So have your mentality, your game plan. Tell someone where you're going. Have some recovery gear, and have some, most important, water and things like that. So here we're getting rocky, and you could probably straddle most of these rocks, but when they do get bigger, careful to just drive over. And you could certainly test the limits of your low-hanging point, the limits of your front differential, to see, hey, how much can I straddle before it scrapes or I feel uncomfortable. But I have gotten stuck that way. Testing those limits. So keep that in mind. So if you do test those limits, you may just get stuck testing those limits. So as long as you're okay with that, you're good to go. So here we're like evenly rocky. And so you just cruise along and you straddle it. But if you see high stuff, just take one side of your car over. I know I keep saying that, but I really think it will help beginners feel more confident on this sort of thing. Because it comes down to off-roading is being faced with situations. And we do this, you're faced with situations on road all the time, but you Yeah, you've been driving on road all your life, so it's second nature on road when you're like, oh, it's a slippery condition, or I'm going uphill, or there's traffic, or this, that, or the other on road. You already know how to deal with it, so it's no big deal. Comes a dirt bike ahead, or at least the guy's taking a break. Here's a big rock passenger side, just go up it. And anyway, on road, you already have a mentality that comes second nature. On road, it can be confusing if you don't have that new set of rules that you're going to go by. Now here we got some big rocks. I'm not going to try to straddle them. I'm just going to keep my tires up high and just do my thing. Fast dirt biker here. How you doing? You okay?
Going, yeah.
Okay, cool. Alrighty, so we're just getting rockier, and we're going uphill, and there's a shelf road. But off-road, as you keep doing it over and over and learning your particular mentality. Now here's a big rock to my passenger side. Now don't straddle that. Instead, I'm going to drive over it on my passenger side, up the front, up the back, because that's the opposite of going over it the other way. Now this one, you might hear it tick. That was a little close. This one, you might hear a little, nope, it's close. But and even if you're close and you scrape, it's fine. But just know what you're doing. You want to have a logic as you're doing this, instead of chaos, fear, and confusion, which was me the first time I went off-road and didn't know what the heck I was doing, because it's like learning to drive all over again. But hopefully after watching this video and hearing some of my ramblings, you'll get a better understanding of what goes through my mind, to where I don't sweat this sort of thing. Now, that's not to say I don't respect it. That has to be at the forefront of everything you do. No matter what, always have respect. Here's a big rock to my driver. I'm going to go over it on my driver. Over front, over to back. Those two bounces, okay? If I tried to straddle that, yeah, maybe I would have made it, maybe I wouldn't. But, that's the technique that works for me. Now, sometimes you're gonna reach a spot where you cannot. Oh, here comes a dirt bike. I hear him. He might pass me. I can't see out of my mirror. I don't know if I should let him pass. I have no idea how dirt bikers do their thing. But some bigger rocks. I'm gonna climb over. Big rocks, climb over. I'll let the biker pass. Okay. I wonder what their techniques. They probably have a whole different set of techniques. So now we're going to get into some bigger rocks. So here we go. Here's the big rock section, where all my babbling I just went over is going to come into play. Now, since I know this, I'll probably stand at 4 high, but I'm not going to straddle this big stuff. I'm either going to avoid the big rocks, or when I can't avoid them. That's what I was talking about. The situations where you can't avoid them are the trickiest situations. But I'm going to try to climb over all these big rocks. So I guess, speaking of dirt bikes, this is kind of fitting, because we got 2 dirt bikers ahead, and you can see my mentality. When I climb over a rock, I treat it like I'm one of their dirt bikes. Just see all that high clearance they have? That's what I'm doing when I take one side of the vehicle over. So when I take one side of the vehicle over here, I'm pretending like I'm them, where you got all that clearance. They have all that clearance between the front and rear wheel. Thus is the case when you're taking just one side, passenger or driver, over a big rock, instead of trying to straddle it. Here's a big rock, right here. Big rocks. I'm just going to take the passenger side over, bigger rock. Don't try to straddle that. Instead, climb it on one side. See? Go up, down, okay? Easy. Now they're going to get bigger up here. Okay? And there's a cliff to my left. Now here's a big rock. I'm still going to climb it carefully, not trying to toss myself off the driver's side here. More big rocks. We're just going to climb it on that passenger side. Okay, that's my mentality. That way you don't have to stress when you reach the stuff. Now here's a big rock, 2 big rocks. Again, passenger side, high on the passenger side. Just climb it on the passenger side. So I think of this GX as 2 dirt bikes in tandem or in parallel. How about that? Kind of like those guys back there. But I think that's how I think of the vehicle. That's how I, that's how I imagine the vehicle. You use that, and that mentality gives you a lot of great sense of confidence when you get into these, oh boy, here comes a high rock type of situations, and again, this will become second nature the more you do it. Like anything, the experts were once beginners, and with enough practice, the beginners can become expert. There's no voodoo to any of this other than getting out there and doing it, just like you do anything else in your life. Just get out there and experience it, try new things, and most importantly, don't be afraid to fail. You're going to get stuck. You're going to have bad days. We've gotten stuck before. We've helped other people get unstuck before. It happens. That's part of the fun. That's why you bring all that crap we mentioned earlier, just in case. But that's part of the quote-unquote adventure aspect of it all. And a lot of people like that. And how much risk and reward and all that, it's up to you. You can be as extreme or as docile as you want. That's your call. But no matter what, the more you do, the more you learn. All right, so as we it's been raining up here. As we get higher in elevation here, we're already up in the mountains from the desert. You can see all these palm trees around me, which are really cool looking. Always remember that, these are some tips that I think will help beginners. Realize that everybody has their own way of doing things. Oh, this got washed out really good here. Rained a lot up here. Had some flooding. Look at that. Look at that. Whoa. Look at that crater. Not crater, but pinstripe. Gutter, let's call it, where the water all flowed over here. Everybody's technique is different, is what I'm saying. So these are techniques that may or may not make sense or work for you. It's just paint. So, as you're learning to off-road, take everybody's experiences and your own into consideration. There's not any one answer. There's just generally accepted practices, that are the basics. But, I feel a lot of it was hard to find online or even in videos of what people were actually doing and what was going through their brain. That's what today's video is about. What's going through my head as I'm doing this. What was going through my head back there with this, gutter on this side was stay on this side and drive on top of that high spot. So I hope this serves as a kind of get into the mind of the off-roader for beginners, because I do believe that a healthy mentality off-roading and a prepared mentality off-roading is your best bet. And one of the main things that separates the beginner from the advanced. However, humility always has to be, and respect always has to be in the mind. Even though I've done this trail before, as you can see, it just washed away. So the surface condition has changed. You know, that big gutter back there wasn't there last time I did this trail. And conditions change, so you have to respect it. Even if you've done it a million times, you've got to respect your own limits, your own comfort zone, your own abilities, and whatever Mother Nature is going to throw at you. Now, what do we do here? I'm going to straddle the low spot or the valley. When you get this kind of situation like you just saw where there's a low spot in the road, that's what goes through the mind. So as you do this, you'll have, again, this mentality over and over. These scenarios will just keep replaying in your mind, and you'll have the solution, so to speak, already in your head as you see them approaching. But anyway, let's get back to respect and humility. I believe that's a big thing for off-roading, and that you know, it's kind of part of it. You know, you don't really meet a lot of arrogant people off-roading, and I think if you do, they're not going to be there long, because this throws a lot of stuff at you and challenges you. Now, this is a situation, this is rocky here, so I'm going to, again, what's in my mind? I don't want a high center, so I'm going to straddle the low stuff and then climb the high stuff. So I'm still in four high here, just because I'm familiar with it. Climb over this high stuff. Climb over the high stuff. Same thing here. Driver's side over the high stuff. Okay. That's what's going through the mind. More rocky stuff here. And then we can straddle all this stuff. It's starting to flatten out. In a second here, it's going to get pretty rocky. Now, this is the section where, again, I'm talking about respect, that I have this. I'm afraid this might have washed out, so I'm going into this next section with a healthy respect for what's going on, essentially, because I don't know if it washed out or not. And this is definitely the intermediate part. But we have high rocks here to the passenger side, and that's taking the passenger side like a dirt bike over. Okay, more high stuff. Okay. So that's the mentality that I'm using. Now here it could wash out, and so I'm careful because it's a shelf road over here. And with a good drop down in the mountain, so that's on the mind. And again, remember, you're speaking of respect and humility, you're not in a Boeing 747 where, you know, you got to keep your momentum up and fly. Got to be mindful of, hey, it's a Toyota. Who should do what? I don't know. Let me see if you can get by. Ooh, boys, lots of them. I don't want to go off. See if we can make it. So you got to be prepared for stuff like this. Thank you. Let's see if you want to come by here. So if he pulled in his mirror, it'd be a little better, but it's all good. I think he can fit. So speaking of, okay, this car, I guess, can make it. Okay, he's flashing me on, so we're good to go. So humility, never know if you're going to run into a situation like that, and you know, that's a part of it. That was a FJ Cruiser. You can't come in with a know-it-all mentality with off-roading, and I think that's what I like about it. And it's slow. But what I was saying is, you're not in a Boeing 747, so you don't have to keep this momentum up like you just saw there. You know, imagine if that happened in the middle of the sky. You know, you have this ability to pace yourself and stop in you know, mid-trail and figure out what you got to do. Do I have to go back? You know, can we squeeze by each other like we just did there? or do we have to figure out something else? So, you know, it allows the dynamic of off-roading allows you to have a good time and certainly have fun, but it's also a exercise in discipline and humility, you know, because that's what it is. Because if you don't, you'll get in trouble real quick. And I don't know, maybe that's why people like it. Maybe that's why dads like it. I don't know. But I enjoy that aspect of it because it allows you to have your fun, but check your ego at the same time, while at the same time building your confidence and skills at the same time. You know, so it's not about one or the other. You know, you can be as egotistical as you want, more power to you. I'm just saying it's a nice balance between the two, between respect and, oh, I got this, you know, it's no big deal, blah, blah, blah. So that's what I'm babbling about. Because that situation back there was a shelf road with, what was that, three vehicles that we had to kind of squeeze by. And going back to your mentality, you got to go, what do I do here? You know, I know there's off-road etiquette. I'm not sure if you know what off-road etiquette is there. Comment below in the comment section about who goes first. You know, I don't know what the answer is. I just try to, you know, do what I think is the most respectful for everybody in the situation. So we got some big pine trees here. And by the way, we're all in 4 high here. And in no gear. We're just in drive 4 high. But that's, again, only because I've done the trail before and I'm scanning ahead. This is my first time I'd be in 4 low in drive. That would allow me to slow down and have the maximum amount of control in these steep sections. Now there is a section here where you can't avoid going in 4 low. I don't think this is it. Now this is hot. This is rocky steps downhill, and I'm careful not to high center. I'm looking for that rock that's going to sneak up and high center me on the front differential. Okay, high rock here, go high. Now this is where I'm going to go ahead and go in 4 low because I feel the car is getting away from me. So 4 low we go. Okay, so now I'm in 4 low, put her back in drive. Now I've got these high rocky steps here, and I'm just going to go slow. I'm just going to take it down to 2nd gear. I don't want to high center, okay? And again, we got rocky stuff here. I got a big rock right on my driver's tire. I'm not going to try to straddle it. I'm going to go over it on my driver's side. Over we go on the front, over we go on the back. Okay? 1st gear, 4 low. See that engine braking? I'm just letting it coast downhill. That's how slow it is. That's what your 4 low is for. I put it in drive because I'm on the bottom hill. So let's keep it in 4 low for fun. And as you can see, the car will be a little bit slower, but I am in drive, so technically I'm in 6th gear, 4 low. And this is the section of the trail where it gets kind of, do you want to be in 4 low or do you want to be in 4 high? Either or is fine. But again, if you're new to a trail, just like I am when I go to a new trail, slow it down and go 4 low. Slow is the name of the game here. And again, I'm looking constantly for a change in a trail. Okay. Now, if you don't have a cut bumper, you're gonna be in these, what do you call it, departure, approach angles, I don't know, where you're gonna reach this dip like that and you're gonna hit your nose. So that's another thing to keep in mind if you don't have a cut bumper. You know, you don't need a fancy bumper or anything aftermarket, just cut the thing off like you see everybody do. But if you want to make it look, you know, more pulled together, then get any popular shorter bumper and you'll be able to go into those, you know, valleys, I don't know what you call them, where you're going to scrape your nose without scraping your nose. Here's another rocky section. I'm four low and drive, and just climbing the big stuff when I can. Oh, I wanted to mention there's back there that there is a few scenarios where the trail is going to be so narrow and you're going to have this high rock, and you're going to be like, you're going to have your two scenarios. Do I climb over it like I'm about to do this rock, or do I straddle it? But there's sometimes where the trail is narrow and you got a big rock step and you can't. You have no choice, or you have a combination. And that's basically your limit. What do you do there? That's your limit. You've got to then decide what the heck you're going to do. That may be the limit of your vehicle based on its height, tires, and whatever else you got going on. And you're going to have to try to climb up it and maybe scrape the bottom, scrape your sliders or whatever you got going on. There's a high rock on the passenger side. Take my passenger side, climb over it instead of trying to straddle it. So when you're in that situation I just mentioned, that's just called your limit, and you're going to have to learn that on your own, and that's unique to your vehicle, your skills, your comfort level, your risk level, blah, blah, blah. That's up for you to go with. But you'll learn that, and the only way to learn that is to get out there and fail. You know, failure is the path to success. And because we learn from our failures, at least most people with reasonable levels of intelligence do. So, assuming you're one of those people, and you are because you're watching this channel, you're going to be just fine. Don't worry about failure. Now, here we go. This is going to be a big dip down and up. This is where I was talking about with the short bumper. Go ahead and put it in second gear to get a little more torque to go up. If I didn't have a cut, well, I might have hit the, it's not like I hit the hitch. If not, that's your departure angle on that steep V, and that will basically tear up your rear bumper. So I either hit the tow hitch there, which sticking out, which hopefully I did because that'll take the brunt of the impact. What I didn't want to do is hit my bumper, because then I got to stick the bumper back on. And yes, I've done that before, and that's how you learn. And that's kind of the point of all this. This part here we're talking about, or this is you're going to unfortunately make mistakes. Now I might hit the front diff here. I got to be careful because I see a rock in the middle. Nope, I didn't. I'm still taking my driver's side on the high side here. But you're gonna, making mistakes is how you learn. That's the bottom line. So don't be afraid of that, and don't listen to anybody who claims to be, they never made mistakes, they never got trapped before. Don't trust them. If you haven't got stranded and high centered and stuck off road before, I hate to say it, but you probably never pushed it that much to learn those limits. And that's not to say you go out and get yourself stuck. I'm just saying that is the noob's rite of passage. Just to get your butt stuck. Okay. So up top here, you can see we're getting a rocky section. I'm in 4 low now, and I feel I need to be in second gear because again, I know this, but I know this section. Now let's go down first, whatever. So here we got some rocks, and I take my passenger side over that big rock on the passenger side, and you won't hear any scrapes or anything like that, and go back into drive. And as you can see, we are up in the mountains. Let me just optimize the view here for you. Okay. And beautiful pine trees. But the way to learn is obviously just keep doing it. So I know I'm sounding like a bit of a rant right now, but that's the whole idea of this video, is to build your confidence, and you want to be confident knowing that you can off-road, and part of that confidence is to realize that, you know, nobody's a superhero off-roader, and you can do it. You can do it if you just get out there. Know you're going to make a few mistakes and have a couple issues here and there, but that's how you must be caterpillar before butterfly. Ancient proverb right there. Or maybe I just made it up, but you get my point. All right, so we're going downhill here. Rocky, got a Bronco. First Bronco we've seen today. This the new one or is this the Sport? I can't tell. I can't tell them. I'm not any Bronco fans out there. Is this the big boy Bronco or is this the Sport? But that's cool. We don't see too many Broncos out there. That was cool. I don't think I've seen a Bronco yet. Well, at least like out on the trail. It's always fun to see who you see. I believe when I oh, here comes a shippy. I believe when hello. I believe when the proper etiquette is to tell how many cars are in your caravan. Now I'm going downhill on Rocky here, so I'm in 4 low, 3rd gear. I'll drop down to 2nd. Okay, I believe the etiquette, and I always get this wrong, is I give everybody the peace signal. And I believe that makes them think that I have 2 people behind me when I don't. All right, so here's a situation where we're going to straddle both. So I don't get high center. I can't really go one side or the other, so I'm just going to climb on both sides here. And remember, go slow. And there we go. Okay. I got some rock steps, and again, being conscientious not to high center is all I'm thinking about. That's the name of the game here. Okay, more rocks. High rock to my passenger side. I'm going to climb it on the passenger side. Up, up, up. There we go. Okay. 2nd gear in 4 low. And kind of straddle this section here of rockiness. Now we got some rocky steps here. Keep my driver's side on the rocks. Now we're going to bang a right turn here. I'm going to put it back in the drive. Still in 4 low, but just in drive. And climb on the driver's side there. Okay. There we go. Some nice big pine trees. But I was saying, oh, here's the section of pavement, and I'm going to have to unlock the center differential here. So always remember, unlock your center diff when you're going on pavement. I'm still on 4 low and dry. I just unlocked it. It's a little old pavement bridge. Now, in all reality, if you left the thing locked on this little section of you know, bridge or whatever that is, you'd be fine. But that's just the proper thing to put it back in neutral. I'm going to lock the diff again, put it in drive. Okay, and up we go. So as stated in the beginning of the video, we're going up in elevation. The temperatures dropped some 20 to 25 degrees at least. Big rocks, okay? Don't high center. Climb the parts that are sticking up. There you go. Don't straddle, is what I'm thinking in my mind. Instead, climb. That's all I'm doing. That's my mentality. So you know, so you're prepared for those situations. But we're going up in elevation here, and temperatures drop 25 degrees, and we're already up in the mountains of Big Bear Lake from the Mojave Desert. So how cool is that? And you can take this trail the same way back. Big rock, climb it. There we go. And to always be prepared to where you're going to end up. Okay, I take my passenger side over this big rock. Oh, hit the rock slider. And that's a lesson in rock sliders, I guess. So yeah, you want to beat up the rock slider and not the frame rail on the unibody or the body of the car. And so in that case, I straddled that rock like a pretending I'm a dirt bike. And I guess if you were on the dirt bike, you would have hit your frame right there, but on this car you hit your rock slider, and that's what it's for. So it did its job, protecting the body, hopefully. And that's an argument for rock sliders right there. Now, we've done that on the stock configuration of this GX on the plastic and aluminum side steps, and bash them up pretty good. They'll do the same thing. They'll just, instead of being able to take the hit and bend a little bit, they'll completely bend and get crunched up. So do take it slow if you have to have a situation where you're like, I'm going to hit, I'm going to scrape. Obviously, the slower you have to crash and burn, the happier your rock sliders or whatever you're deciding to sacrifice in that situation is going to be happier, and the less repairs you have to do, blah blah blah. So if you gotta bite the dust, try to do it in slow motion is what I'm trying to say. Again, always remember to like and subscribe if you've enjoyed chilling out with us here, learning what's going through the mind of the off-roader. Again, these are all things I would want somebody to tell me when I was a beginner and I had no idea what to do, what gear to be in, what mode to be in, whether to lock the center diff, whether to try to straddle the rock or climb it, this, that, and the other. I had no idea. So this is what this is all about. And it's just like, oh, hey, what's this? Pathfinder, Nissan. It's always so cool to see all the other cars out here. But it looks like a Pathfinder ahead, or Xterra. So that's cool. So anyway, this is the tips I would want to know when I was first doing this. He's waving me by, so that's cool. How you doing? Thank you. And from here, it's just getting out there and experiencing it. Because after all, these fundamentals that I'm telling you about today, they had to come from somewhere, and they came from regular people like you getting out there and just doing their thing. So be a part of it all. Get out there and also share what you think in the comments. Talk about it. Share if you know any other beginner tips, suggestions, things like that. I will touch a second as we're entering all these sharp rocks, is try to be conscientious of the dreaded sidewall tear or blowout. So as you're climbing rocks, don't purposely, shall I say, try to scrape the side of your tires, whether you're aired down or not. Try your best when you see pointy things to not brush the side of your tires, that's the weak part, on said sharp objects. I'm talking about sticks, twigs, logs, sharp rocks, sides of boulders, etc. Twigs and rocks, might hit the hitch again, but twigs and rocks will puncture your tires, and when I am around twigs, like the creosote bush native to the Mojave Desert, I'm very respectful of it. It's not just get out there and drive over bushes. That thing will puncture your tire. That thing owns the desert. You know, those things have been there for all of eternity, and you know they have the vitality of God. So they're tough. So when they stick their sticks out and they have, and you see them on the side of the road or on a trail, don't just run over them because they will puncture your tire. So be respectful of the bushes, and also be conscientious or mindful of where the heck what your sidewalls are doing at all times. Yes, you're going to have to climb rocks, but if you're going to climb a rock and you can clearly see there's a jagged part of this rock that you're about to brush into, by all means do everything within reason to try to avoid it. Now obviously if it's the sidewall or falling off the side of a cliff, please pick the former, not the latter. Oh, mud puddle. Oh yeah. Now here's where experience comes in. I'm not going to do that. I know you want me to, but I'm not, because I don't want to get stuck in a mud puddle. That puddle could be really, really deep and really sticky, and I'm not with anybody. If I was with, some other people, I would go ahead and splash through that and see what happens. If I get stuck, they can pull me out, yank me out, winch me out, whatever. But this is where your experience is going to come in. When you see a big old puddle like that and you're unsure and you're alone, proceed at your own risk, because you could get stuck no matter how lifted in tires or whatever you got. Not saying you won't make it, I'm saying your chances increase of a mud puddle. So we're going back to that respect I was talking about earlier, that humility, respect. I want to go through that and splash around, but there could be a big opening in the bottom of that I can't see, and then I'm stuck, and I gotta wait for one of those Jeeps or whoever, that Pathfinder behind me or that exterior, to come yank me out. And I'm not quite sure if I'm in the mood for that today. So know those situations. And I hate to keep talking about humility, but you'll learn that it's part of the experience. You're having a good day, you're feeling confident, you're not out of the woods yet, so to speak. Anything could happen. I hate to say it, but I could get a flat, I could blow a sidewall, you could have a mechanical error problem, spill some oil, some antifreeze. Any form of nonsense can happen. So even though we're approaching the finish line here at Big Bear Lake, you gotta follow through. And this is where I like the discipline part, which is what you just saw me exercise, a discipline, in order to tell myself, don't do that. It's not wise. Have discipline, and to get on with the rest of your day, and not push it. But if I had a pal behind me, yes, of course, I'd risk it, knowing that he or she was going to rescue me. So take into consideration the entirety of the trail. And again, this is all beginner advice. The entirety of the trail, because you're going on this entire type of trail ordeal. You're going on like a trip, literally. You have like airplanes file a flight plan. You've got your travel plan here, or your trail plan. And the beginning, like a pilot who takes off, is just as important. Is monitoring the middle of the flight and then the landing. It's all important. You can't be like, we're so far so good on this trail, so let's just floor it and forget our discipline, forget our fundamentals, because that's where problems can and do arise. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I think we've reached a conclusion here. We're not quite at Big Bear. There are a few patchy areas ahead, but we're pretty much there. And I hope this video has helped you. Again, it's for beginners, and I hope that I got through to all beginners out there that wanted to know, hey, what's going on in the mind of an off-roader that kind of knows what he's doing. Let's just say an experienced off-roader. What's going through the mind? What's going through the thought process, and how can that thought process help me? If you have anything to add to the conversation, please comment, talk about it. And And remember to like and subscribe. And as always, have a great, wonderful, fantastic, sunshiny, mountain fresh, pine tree, juniper tree scented type of day.